Let's get it.
What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man, and I'm so happy to be back here today with a special guest, my man Chip. Say what's up, Chip. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
That's right. I'm super excited to share Chip's story. Again, if you're not feeling good today, just remember it's just the thoughts in our head. We got to be able to change those prompts. And if you can't, and you're not yet there yet, with as a Jedi mind master, just remember you can always biohack. Go start doing some push-ups. Go do some physical. Jump in the ice bath, whatever it is. Listen to some music. Start screaming, whatever you can, just to get out of that thought process or wherever you are. But that being said, let's get started. Chip, man, it's great to have you. Let's just talk real quick. How did we end up meeting? Like, if you can give a little background on that, a little background on that, and then we can talk about exactly what you do for business, what you're doing
Yeah.
for health, and then how you are crushing it lately. Well, not lately, throughout the last couple of months or years. It's almost been a year, I think, right, since we met.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what we met over at Travis Chambers men's retreat, which was awesome. How did you get connected, and what was like in your thought the decision point where you're like, you know what, let me go do something like this?
Yeah, I love that you're bringing that up because it was very, something I had never done before. It was kind of very outside the box for me. I was always kind of like doing my own thing. I didn't connect so much really with many other, entrepreneurs, business owners, anything else like that. But I had always looked up to Travis and I had been following him for quite some time. I really resonated with his journey, with his own, marketing agency, and how he scaled that and exited and everything. And that was very, very, very impressive. And then I saw that he did this retreat, and I was talking to my partner Cassie, and I was like, you know what, like something tells me that I should just pull the trigger. I should just do it. There's not that many, so many spots. It was obviously a fairly small group. And yeah, I didn't think twice. I booked it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be flying from Hawaii to Boise, which I've also never been there before.
What?
And
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And then I went, and that's how we met. And you and me actually hit it off quite well. You were one of the more really memorable people and just your energy. It was Wilson. It was really, I actually remember talking to Cassie about this. I was like, God, there's this guy Wilson, like it's his energy. I can just feel the vibe that is so incredibly positive, and I really appreciated that.
Dude, I appreciate you appreciating that, man. That makes me feel great. That's awesome. Likewise, likewise. I know we connected, and even going on the ride, it was awesome because you were able to share some of your story and some of the things that you've gone through, which we'll definitely get into. Now, for people that are listening and may not know who Travis Chambers is, he's basically a marketing guru, right? He built his business up in terms of marketing and video production, which was crazy at the time too. Because I asked him, I was like, "Have you ever filmed?" He's like, I just wrote the scripts. He's like, I didn't touch any of the film or production, which is the craziest part that I got the aha moment. So he built up his business, ended up selling for like 14 million, and then he's been doing a bunch of great stuff. And that's how we connected. So same thing. I was following him, and then we met him. So for people not knowing who Travis Chambers is, definitely look him up because he's got some really creative stuff out there and some good stuff happening. But yeah, Chip, that's great. All right, so then let's take it. Let's keep it on the business side for a second. Where were you in that moment? And one, you were living in Hawaii, huh? And you're still living in Hawaii. So to take us through, like, how'd you get started? Like, what was your entrepreneurial journey? Like, how long ago? Where did it come? Like, where did you start manifesting these things? And all of a sudden, what was the thing that switched into where you are now? Because I know you're crushing it, killing it, and doing a great, like, you're just doing amazing stuff.
Thanks so much, man. And yeah, and I'm glad you're bringing up manifestation because it's I give a lot of credit to that for sure. I mean I started fairly young. I've been at it for about 11, coming up on 12 years. I was 16 when I initially started the business I still run to this day. What kind of got me going was, I originally immigrated with my family from Romania. I grew up in Romania up until I was around 13, and then we immigrated to Canada right outside of Toronto. So it was me, my parents, as well as my sister, and I just saw what they went through for us to be able to have that kind of a chance at life. We were at the time living in a basement, and it was a huge struggle for my parents. They gave up incredible careers back in Romania to basically have to start over with us outside of Toronto. And seeing that, I don't know, I had just, I guess, decided fairly early on that like I needed to make sure that like I do make something of myself. And the mentality in Romania is very different because you grow up believing that what you have to do is you have to go finish your university, get your schooling done, you either become a lawyer or a doctor, or you pretty much have no other shot at a successful career. And that was my mentality. But then I came to Canada and I saw people in my high school that had jobs. They were making already money. Like they were working at Starbucks, they were working at McDonald's, like they were making money.
Yeah.
And I wanted money, man. Like, like
Yeah, right.
I wanted to be able, all my friends were, doing quite well and they had money to spend on the weekend and going out. And I'm like, I want that. I
Right.
want to be able to go paintballing on the weekend, but paintballing was $100,
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so then, yeah, I ended up, I always had a passion for cameras. My dad, I guess, had a camera on my face ever since I was like 2 years old. And, he already had a DSLR. So I'm like,
Well,
you know what? Like maybe I can use this camera and figure something out with it. So then I ended up taking a camera and I searched up a lot about, okay, videography in terms of what do people offer? How can I make money? And then first they were telling me about, how you become a film director and that whole process. And
right.
then like, oh no, you can like shoot events. And so I did a bunch of research and then I found, in Canada, we have a website called Kijiji. It's like Craigslist. It's basically think of it as Craigslist.
Cool.
So I went there and I saw there was a bunch of ads of people offering videography services. And I'm like, hey, if this person can do it, maybe I can do it. I have a camera. I'm like seeing that I can film with it. Let me see what I can do. So I basically kind of copied all of their best points from each ad and I
Yeah.
just made my own,
So
right?
smart. So
Yeah, I
smart.
searched up how to start a business.
Yeah.
It was very easy. It was like, you spend $150, you register your business online, you have a business now. And which again, not possible in Romania. Like again, Canada and the US, how easy it is to start a business. Like you guys don't understand how incredible that is,
Right, right,
you
right,
know?
right. For those
Um,
that haven't gotten a chance to see that perspective, how easy it can be to actually do something like that here. 100%. I agree.
Oh my God, in Canada, you don't even actually have to pay taxes until you make a certain amount of money because they want you to succeed so that you can, keep reinvesting in your business. Anyway, besides the points, I made that Kijiji ad and I kid you not, within a couple of days, I had already a request of somebody that wanted me to film a birthday event. It was a woman, it was her 60th birthday and that job paid me $250. I never did free work. I got
Yeah.
paid for my very first job.
Awesome.
And that's how it all really started.
Yeah.
That was
So
that
let me
was
ask
it.
you, when you got that request, what was that feeling like?
Dude, insane. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is crazy. And I used to always like kind of meet people in person first and it was a whole process. Like,
Yeah.
I knew nothing. You have to understand, like literally nothing. Everything that I had learned was through YouTube tutorials.
Right.
I then, taught myself and then I realized even as you're doing the job how less you actually know. But I did what I could. And then I did events for about 6 months or so. So I would have an event almost every weekend. I'd obviously be going to school during the week, and then I'd have events on the weekend. And again, it was paying like $200, $300. It's not
Yeah.
like we were making, but it was something for somebody. Obviously, I was living at home and everything. I was starting to save up a little bit and have the money that my friends had in terms of
Yeah.
like
You go
enjoying it on the
paintballing.
weekend.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And then my transition to real estate was really interesting because I had somebody that reached out also through that same ad and said, hey, have you ever done real estate? I was of the mentality of kind of like fake it till you make it. So I obviously had told him that, yes, I've done real estate. I'm an expert in real estate. Like, sign me up. And he said, okay, well, meet me here. I want to talk to you. I want to see kind of like, what you're able to do. So I met him. His name was Hans Horstrom. He is still my client to this day. He's, he was one of my early mentors. And I met him, and he showed me all these cool videos. And he's like, "Man, if you can do this, like, tell me." I'm like, "Yes, I can do this. Let's get it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, tomorrow, come to my house. You do a test shoot. If I like what you've done, I'll give you all of my upcoming houses to film." And that was crazy because as soon as I got home, I had researched everything you need to know about real estate. And I realized I had nothing. And not only have I never done it, but I didn't have the right equipment. I
Right,
didn't
right.
have a wide lens. I
Wide
didn't
angle
have a
lens.
gimbal.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything. So then I had to that day I didn't have a driver's license or anything yet. So I had asked my mom to like drive me around so I can go pick up all of this used equipment, right?
Yeah.
And that night I didn't sleep because I had to teach myself how to use it all night long. Like I kid you not, I probably got 2 or 3 hours of sleep that night. And then the next morning I was at his house to do this test shoot,
Wow.
right? I did the test shoot and it was obviously my worst video to date. It was technically our first company video because that's
Yeah.
what we do now. We do real estate. Horrible, horrible, Wilson. Like it's the
Will
worst
you
thing you
share
could
it with me?
possibly imagine. I will try my best to
To
find it. I
find
do
it?
have
Okay.
a very, very early video from
Okay.
within that first like couple of months. So I'll
Okay.
send you one for sure
Okay.
because my first official paid job was actually one of his $3 million listings, and I do have
Whoa.
that video. So I'll
Whoa.
show you that horrible video I did at that
Cool. Cool.
house.
Cool. Yeah, I'll share it,
But
man. I'd love to share that. I should
yeah,
love to share that one and where you guys are at now. That.
yeah, oh, 100%. You'll see.
Yeah.
We've we've definitely improved. But I'll tell you what happened. So as I met him at his house and we did the test shoot, I truly, and he told me later on that he saw something in me. It wasn't my product. He knew that video was not good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But he saw potential in this kid that's trying to do something, and he said, "Hey, if I get him now, then I get him at a better price, and I invest in his career, and then he helps also my business grow with time,
Crazy.
right?" So that's how we kind of started. And actually, for the first couple of years of my career, I was just working with him because he had a decent amount of volume and it was amazing. I got to actually become really good, really good. Well, better and better.
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I had some sort of consistency in my business, which was hard to do,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, the next pivotal moment came was when I was a grade 12. So I had already been doing this for about a year and a half now. And it came time to the point of like, hey, do I go to university? Do I pursue either filmmaking or do I get more education? Keep in mind, I was horrible in school. I had failed math multiple times. I was not really meant for school. I had lots of work ethic, but not with school. Books and anything to do with school, just it never clicked for me.
Right.
Okay. So university didn't sound very appealing, but and I had a lot of different, obviously, family members that said, you have to, you have to, you have to.
Yeah.
But I had decided that, I think for me, it would make more sense to pursue my business, right? Instead of going to school. And I had a lot of people try to talk me out of it. I had obviously some people that were very supportive. But I said, you know what, this is what I want to do full time. I've been really enjoying it. I think I can actually build it into something. So that was, one of the obviously best decisions. There's about 3 or 4 decisions that I've made in my life that were the best,
You're like, I'm so
and that
happy
was
I made
definitely
those
one of them.
decisions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That
so
was
let
one of
me
them.
ask, like when you made that pivotal that decision to then double down on what you're doing instead of going to university, how did you work through that? What was the mental, I guess, evaluation? And then obviously I would assume a lot of it came from very close, like mom and dad probably were like, you gotta go to university. You gotta be. Is that like how did? Because I have a similar story, same similar esque story. So how did you deal with that decision making? Because it becomes a decision point, that right?
Yeah.
How did they like take us through that a little bit?
So luckily for me, mom and dad actually had supported me from day one, no matter what. So that helped a lot. Having their support did mean a lot. Obviously, when you're early on and when you're still young, you can still get their help financially if you need to, or things like that. So I was very, very lucky in that sense. Everybody else, in terms of grandparents, close, and obviously also my partner Cassie, which we met in high school. And she was also very, very supportive from day one. So the decision was, I'll be honest, the decision was pretty clear. I did have, and again, I think this was something that was, I can't really control it, but I did apply to one particular filmmaking school that I said if I do get in, I might end up doing that. So luckily the universe, ended up I ended up being waitlisted for that school, and then there was not even anything else. I'm like, I would have never considered anything else. So luckily it was a more easier decision than you'd think because I was like, hey, you know what? I didn't get here anyway. I have something going on here. Let me at least give it a try. I always told everybody, I said, listen, guys, I'll try it for a year or two. If it doesn't work, I can always go back to school.
Worst case scenario, you can always go back to school. Yeah, absolutely, fantastic. So one of the things that most recently I've incorporated into my overall feeling of being is that no matter what, it all works out for our benefit, for my benefit. And it's an incredible, like it was an incredible mind shift. And then not only a mind shift, but then like the overall feeling of like not worrying, right? Not having that extra stressor and thinking like, what if
This
not?
is,
What
yeah.
if, exactly. And since then, like the more and more I hear people's stories, it's like you can revert back to it. And I always ask people, I'm like I encourage people that like, all right, I share these things that I'm getting, and I'm like, hey, and so let me ask you a question: if you were to look back, when hasn't it? And then
Oh my
people,
God. Yeah. Wilson, what you just said is life changing. I'm telling you, for so many people. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm like, it didn't, that phrase, right? And me and Cassie have a phrase that always works out for us. Like that's something that we say to ourselves no matter what. And that phrase didn't come until I had my first really big slowdown in my business. So I have struggled, I've had an 11 career, and there's been two or three times that it was very, very, very difficult. I lost some business, revenue wise. I've had a couple of, rough, like 3 4 month stretches where it seemed like everything was really going downhill, right? And actually this was Cassie that she introduced me to law of attraction, manifestation, and then we built that phrase through that very, very low point where we decided that, hey, no matter what, it always works out for us. And
woo,
once that happens to you once, man, it's like you have a superpower. We got out of that, okay? We got out of it. Obviously, we had support and help, but even as soon as you prove to yourself, like, oh my God, this worked, every other decision. And we've had so many times, here, like moving to Hawaii, like expanding the business, like starting over, like so many things. Every time now I have, because it's all up and down, man.
yep.
It can't just be all up, right? It's up and down. Every time there's anything that seems to be going not how I think it's planned, I'm like, you know what? The universe has a different plan. It's pushing us in a different direction. It always works out for us. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, 100%. And when has it not?
Literally, right? Like
Right, right.
actually,
Yeah,
it's so true.
yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah, and so that's, yeah. I'm glad that we're on that same frequency. Yeah. So for people listening, if you're going through something like that, just again, it's reinforcing these small thoughts, right? These small prompts in our head. When has it not worked out in your favor? And just keep using that, because the feeling of there was a weight lifted as soon as I brought it into my being. Like you can say it, but once you encompass it in terms of who you are, that feeling of just pressure and whatever, and things are going wrong and not my way, it just goes away, which
It's
is
so true.
phenomenal, you know?
There's been so many instances, man. Like I'll tell you, when we first decided to move to Hawaii, which was, it was honestly, it was also something that, like, it was almost like an out of out of body experience. Honestly, when we Cassie really wanted us to come here just to travel, right? And at the time, in back in Toronto, I was, working really hard in my business, so we were taking a decent amount of trips so we can like get away and like connect and relax. So we were traveling quite a bit. Hawaii to me always meant that, like, oh, it's just a beach vacation, for wealthy people. It's not really like what I thought was my vibe. But then she started showing me these videos of people adventuring and people enjoying nature and everything, and she's like, no, 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 trust me, like we have to just go. Let's just go for 5 days, and we did. And I remember getting off the plane and doing, we stopped at our first stop was this location. It's called Lanai Lookout. It's on the east side of Oahu, and it was just like a feeling. I don't know, like touching that rock and like just like being, breathing the air. I don't know. It was like an immediate feeling of like we truly, truly fell in love with this island and the people and the vibes and the positivity. There's so much positive energy. It's like you feel it everywhere you go. And it got to the point where we would travel back to Hawaii every 3 months. So before we moved here, we had actually come here 10 times
That's funny.
because it's like it kept bringing us back. And we said, is there a possibility for us to ever be able to live here? So, we're both Canadians, we're not Americans. So we spoke to an immigration lawyer, and he's like, listen, you run a successful business in Canada. You can actually go ahead and open up, make an investment in the US, hire American people, open, support the economy
Right.
here, and we will easily be able to argue that you have to be able to live in both countries, right?
I see.
And even then, like you have to understand, so many things seemed like it would have been impossible. Okay, I have to save up 150 grand. How? There's
Yeah.
like I've never been able to, like, because it's like my business is running. Like, how is that? And suddenly business took off.
Boom.
Like it was like, then we couldn't find a house here. We had applied to 35 different properties, okay? But keep in mind, Wilson, we came here 6 months before we actually moved to like establish the business, open up the office, do everything, okay? And we had to find an area that we wanted to live in. So we stayed a couple of weeks in each different area, and we found out the North Shore of Oahu was like our absolute dream. It was exactly what we wanted and
Yeah.
everything. So then we manifested, and we would drive up on the exact street. And just so you know, I'm looking at that street right in front of me right now. But
Crazy.
we drove up the street and said, "This is it. This is our neighborhood. This is it. Like, I'm gonna make this happen." Everything. And then when it actually came down to finding a house, there was obviously nothing available here. And every other house we had applied to for months, this was a 3 month process that we applied to houses. They would say, no, you have big dogs. We can't. You've never lived in Hawaii. Like, no, 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 no.
Damn.
And I was like, oh my God. We came to the point where within the next week, we had to find a house because we had our flights booked, everything. Our whole life was about to move
Oh.
here. And it was already, I remember, it was like 10 p.m. Me and Cassie were just sitting on the couch in Canada. That was always refreshing, Zillow, always refreshing, Zillow. And a house pops up in on the exact street that we had manifested. Okay. This was after getting declined everything. I immediately call a realtor and say, "This is the house, this is the house, please, 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 this is the house." The guy calls me back. He's like, "Hey man, I spoke to the owner." He said he doesn't want to speak to me, he doesn't want to hear from me, he wants to hear from you. He just needs to talk to you. So I call him, and his name was Adam. And Cassie literally takes the phone and says, "Adam, you're in charge of our dream property. I promise you, we manifested this. Like, whatever." The guy's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, chill." It was
Like,
like,
hello?
he did not get it. Like, it was like, okay. And then he's like, "Just so you know, I already have 20 showings booked
Whoa.
for tomorrow, and I have a lot of people coming." And same idea. We heard the same story. "You've never lived here. This is country living. I don't think you guys understand coming from Canada." Then we told him, "Adam, just trust us. Like, please, 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 just give us a shot. Like, whatever you need, anything." He's like, "You know what, guys? I'm not sure. I'll think about it." So he hangs up and he calls us. It was the middle of the night for us. It was like 2 in the morning. So he wakes us up. It was only like, I don't know, 8 p.m. here in
Yeah.
Hawaii. And he calls us and says, "You know what? I don't really want to have 25 people at the house tomorrow. If you guys actually want it and you sign the agreement, like, I'll give it to you guys."
Whoa. Whoa.
Can you imagine?
Whoa.
Like, it was after being declined. Like, that's why I said the universe had a plan. It always works out. I'm glad we got declined from all of these other
That's
different
right.
areas on the island, because this was our dream. This is what we wanted. And it just came in at the very, very last second,
Bro,
you
you gave me
know?
chills for the second time, man. Chills for the second time. What a story. Crazy. Okay, so let's sum it up for people in terms of what we talked about business and then having this mindset. How would you give that to people? Like, what would you say to somebody that may where we were? Because I used to be there. I used to be like, man, this is not working out for me. Like every time I get this, then I get back 3 steps. Or every time I try to get successful, then all of a sudden it's like, how do we? So in your words, how do we share that with someone so they understand that we know what it's like, and then here are the things to continue to you know and like bring into your life. How do you do that? What's your thought?
Yeah. Um, it's really interesting because obviously what I would tell you now after, again, doing this for about 11 years and being through about ups and downs was probably very different to kind of how I really started. I did take a more kind of slow approach. I didn't understand, spirituality. I wasn't like, this came later in my life. Now I would say, obviously, yes, goal setting is very, very important. So understanding what you want, you don't have to know, in my opinion, how you're gonna get there, but you do want to have a very almost tunnel vision focus to be like, I want that. I know I can have that, right? If that means, and it depends for different people. For some people, that's material. Some people say, don't
Right.
focus on the money. Listen, if for you is what you need right now is money, you can, in my opinion, focus on the money. Don't focus on the amount of clients. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe for you it's getting being able to take your family on a dream vacation, or maybe even just having enough food on the table. Everybody's at different levels, but I do think having that goal is so important. And don't get me wrong, like, you have to also enjoy what you're doing. Like one thing I will say is like for me, I love what I do. I do like I love what I do. So then it's easier to work hard towards it
Yeah,
because
right.
it
It's
did take
easier
a
that way.
lot of hours. It did take I work a lot, man. You know, I can't say that like, it's like I do work a lot, but I enjoy it. I
Right.
love our clients. I love my team. I love what I do. So it's like people again, if that's the energy that you give and you pour into it. So I think almost because especially I sometimes talk to people, they're like, I'm not sure. Like I don't really know yet. That's okay. Like
Yeah.
not everybody needs to have it figured out. It's 16,
Right.
18, 20, 30.
Yeah.
Like that
Not
doesn't
everybody needs to go to
matter.
university, like you were saying, like that's
Of
not necessarily exactly
course.
if you're not ready. 100%.
Yeah, but it's like almost whatever if there is a passion, right? If not, try different things, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like once you do have a passion, like wow, do you need to pursue that? Because I think it's going to be so much easier to set goal for it than actually work towards it. And then the third thing, and that's probably the most important, is like don't give up
Mhm.
before it's like I have a feeling sometimes that people give up when maybe they were literally it could have been 1 week, it could
Yeah.
have been another month,
Yeah.
before greatness, right?
Right.
So if it's truly something that you enjoy, then just keep doing it
Keep
because
doing
it's
it.
guaranteed to work out, especially if you know it's guaranteed that it's going to work
Yeah.
out.
100%. 100%. I'm right there with you. I feel like I feel like the thought is like with people. So, for example, people that have 9 to 5s, people are like, "Man, I work 9 to 5. How am I able to XYZ, right? Continue to go." Like, Mike, look, if I if I would have done it a little bit different, I probably would have saved a little bit more instead of being like, all right, I'm going, I'm going full in as an entrepreneur. But for people that still like need that or have that right now, I tell them take it on like night school. Like if you have the passion and you want to do something on the side and you ultimately want to grow that, see it as almost like 3 days a week, 4 days a week. What can you do to continue? And then at some point it'll start leveling out where it's going to be more. It's going to be worth more to you to do X, Y, and Z versus in your 9 to 5, and then you can take. You don't have to necessarily burn all the bridges right away. Like there's different ways to get there, which is great. So awesome, awesome. All right, I think we're gonna have to do a second one for sure because I want to talk about health, nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. So we got a couple minutes left. Let's just kind of jump into that a little bit, and then we'll leave it with a cliffhanger. Uh, See what I did there for Hawaii cliffhanger.
I like it.
We can do a second episode. Definitely a follow up would be amazing because you're everything that you've done not only in your business. I think everything's when I see you working out and the things that you're doing definitely translate to what your first client was saying to you. There's something about you. There's something about you. There's a drive. There's a need. There's a want that I think I've seen it like you're out there. So give me a little bit of what where were you health wise or what were you dealing with in terms of that, and then what changed for you? What was your click that made you change? And then what are you currently doing now in terms of like crushing it? Then how does that make you feel? And how does that affect everything you're doing anyway?
I like
That's
that.
a lot of questions. All
No,
at
no,
once.
I can handle it. I can handle it.
Uh,
Here's the thing. For many, many years, I didn't know what work-life balance meant. That did not exist to me whatsoever. I was very, very, very involved with my business. And I had struggled with, weight gain and emotional eating and a couple of different things, for quite some time, really. Like I kind of yo-yoed for many years. I want to say it took me about 13 years to actually finally figure
let
it
me ask you
out.
a quick question. What was that emotional eating coming from? Like, what was that influence?
I am so involved in my business. Like something would go wrong. The ice cream tub was it, right? Something would go wrong. McDonald's large fries, right? They would make me feel better, right? And I got to the point where I had gotten up to pretty much, I think 250 pounds, 247, I think is the highest I was on the scale. But and I'm 5'7", right? So you
Oh wow.
understand that's
Yeah.
quite heavy.
Yeah.
And to 47, and then I stopped weighing myself, so I probably passed 250 at some point. I was just too afraid to even get on the scale. And that was tough. That was tough because again, I was working so much, and then all I would do is I would work and then I would come home and eat. And as much as you had the finances and me and Cassie could travel, you could always tell that there was something missing, right? Like, yes, I was fulfilled in my business, but man, like, did I not realize what I missed out on by not also figuring out my health, right? And I was always active because I always enjoyed like hiking and I always enjoyed moving, but it just wasn't enough. it really wasn't enough to actually keep me in balance, right? What clicked for me, and this it did absolutely change my life. Was I did get an Apple Watch, and I put it on, and the first time I did any sort of exercise, it told me that my VO2 max is so low that I am very likely to either die young or get sick very, very young, right? Because for my age, my VO2 max was like I was in my 60s and I was in my 20s,
God
right?
damn.
And that was scary.
Yeah.
That like notification that I got, I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like what does this mean? And I decided I was going to go on a hike every single day. Luckily, I have a beautiful hike 5 minutes from my house, so I
What
started
goes
doing
in
that.
the
I did
way?
that for about exactly. I did that for about 3 weeks, and
Yeah.
then actually Cassie. So you, what you realize is every time I make a very important decision that ends up being amazing, it's a lot of times it's Cassie's idea, right? I
Okay.
implement it.
Okay. Good.
So Cassie says, we're taking this walk at the top of our neighborhood, and Cassie's like, I think you could probably run this. It's like nice, it's great. And I was like, okay, like let me try it. So the next day I started running it, and that was 2.5 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago, and I didn't look back since. I have been running that almost every single day, and because of the running, and I would do it every morning before doing anything else. I wouldn't like that was it. I had to get that out of the way first.
Yeah.
As soon as I did that, I felt so good. Yes, it was hard to move. I was heavy. It was hard to move, but it's like it just like I don't know, getting that heart rate up, like it would fill me with energy that I had never felt
Before. Right. You're like,
before.
I love this feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
Insane, insane. And because of that, it was easier to also watch my food intake, and that was it. It wasn't much rocket science. I used an app called Noom, that I would track my foods. I would go for my runs, and then I've been dropping, and I'm 180 right now. So I had lost from my heaviest, 70 pounds.
That's
But
fantastic, bro.
be
Congrats.
beyond, thank you. Beyond the actual weight difference is, oh my God, it's up here, dude.
Mindset
It's up here.
all day.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. And you
You
know
know.
what? So we'll leave that one there and we'll get next time we talk, let's talk more. Let's get deeper into the mind stuff when it comes to the working out, the things you went through in the shift. And then also, I want to talk a little personal, like personal life growing up, some of the things that maybe you've gone through. Because we love to hit home on all these things that make what a person is, right? Like the things that all these verticals that we deal with that at some point, if we don't have it or like we don't have the awareness, it takes us for a fucking trip until we figure it out, right? That's the whole nothing changes until you do. So the concept there is influence, thoughts, emotions, decisions, which are actions, and then lead us to the outcome. So influence creates thoughts, thoughts, emotions then drive these actions, actions then create your outcome. The idea is to figure out what are the outcomes that we're not happy with these situations, and then reverse engineer what was my influence, what was my thought, what was my emotion in that moment of decision making, and then let's change these things. So, again, it's just reinforcing these things and everything you said falls right within that, man, which is great. So it's fantastic. I appreciate you so much. Before we finish up, what is like if you were to, last couple of words to anybody that may be dealing with something, whether it's business, whether it's, the physical, the weight, what would you say?
Ah, it's hard because I will say, Wilson, I know everybody has different walks of life, and I've met people, every time people ask for advice, it's a little bit hard for me because I'm like, I feel like I've had it fairly good. We'll talk about my upbringing and everything else, and because I think what it comes down to, for me, it was confidence, right? Like knowing, like having the confidence that, again, I know that everything's always going to work out. It almost drives you to take the action, to
Ooh,
put those running shoes
love,
on and go.
love that. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know exactly how. I wish I had the answer, but how to build that confidence. I think for me, it was built in me since I was young. I did get a lot of,
And your
support from my
influence,
from my
man.
family. Right. So because I was always told that I'm gonna be great, that was never a doubt for me. Like for me, I gotta be honest. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I always knew that I was gonna do something great. It was something that was installed with me since literally I can remember. Right, my mom would tell me if I want to be a skateboarder, she told me you'll be Tony Hawk. If I
Yeah.
wanted to be a filmmaker, she told me I'll be Steven Spielberg. Like it was just how it was.
Yeah.
Right, so because of that, I walk through life knowing that no matter what, like I'm gonna achieve this. Right, so somehow, some way, if we can figure it out together,
Yeah. Yeah.
to get people to have that level of confidence. It's almost arrogant, but who cares?
Right.
You're on your own journey, right? If you're not hurting anybody,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Why
matter.
not have the confidence in yourself?
Yeah, that belief in yourself will get you to take actions that will always change your life.
Love it, bro. I love it. All right. So for you guys listening, confidence. Let's go. Confidence is the key. You got us here to push on. We're rooting for you. Got your spiritual hype man, of course. Chip. Chip Too Nice is what I got you in my phone. Always a great character to talk to.
Remember that?
Yeah, Chip. Thanks so much for being part of it. We're definitely gonna get you on here on a part two. And ladies and gentlemen, if you listen, don't forget, nothing changes until you do. Peace.
I love it. Thank you, Wilson.
All right.